Hello, everybody. Another week is here, and I don't know about where you live, but Queensland, it's certainly heating up, and summer is just around the corner. And let me just say one thing: if you're trying to get into some decent shape, or if you're just maintaining and you're trying to build muscle, you're in a program. Remember, the weather's heating up. It's beach weather. It's the time where we're probably going to be wearing less clothes, probably going to be a little bit more self-conscious about our appearance, and also probably going to be eating a bit more food over Christmas. So a good plan is to push hard now until Christmas, and then probably take a bit of a relaxed week over Christmas, where you may enjoy some meals with friends and family, and don't get too fussed if you miss a training day here or there. That's the goal that Marika and I are doing with our own training, is just to push hard to Christmas, and then enjoy some time off. So if you are currently in a program, now is the absolute perfect time to be making some significant changes to your overall lifestyle, physique, whatever it might be, in time for Christmas. So just want to put that out there. Now, I wanted to throw in just a bit of a talk about aerobic or anaerobic work. Now, you might think, what? I'm not too interested in this, but it's really, really critical to having an understanding of the different types of training that you're doing. And I'm sure everyone has heard the terms aerobic and anaerobic thrown around. What does aerobic mean? What does anaerobic mean? I'm going to break it down really, really simple. Now, this is going to be a really simple explanation, so I'm going to butcher it deliberately, just so that we can get some basic ideas and concepts across. Aerobic means with oxygen. Anaerobic means without oxygen. Specifically, we're talking about energy production. Now, depending on the type of training we're doing, it's going to depend as to what is sort of the primary energy system that's allowing us to perform the exercise. So aerobic or anaerobic means either we're taking in enough oxygen to complete the exercise and to produce the energy for it to be sustainable and maintainable in the long term. So let's just say, for example, you went for a walk. You could maintain that walking pace for many, many hours, almost indefinitely, and that's because you're taking in enough oxygen for your body to produce energy, and basically fulfill the requirements of the exercise. So produce enough energy for the exercise. So again, if you're walking, let's say you walked for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 12 hours, if you're able to continue that intensity of exercise, it is because your body is able to provide enough oxygen for the energy requirements for that exercise. And that's aerobic exercise. Me just sitting here talking to you, I could continue to talk all day. I might get a sore voice, but that's because I am utilizing energy by my aerobic system. So I'm taking in enough oxygen to continue talking and continue what I'm doing, and there's no real problem at all. Now, the aerobic system, a couple of benefits is that really long duration. Secondly, we burn a higher percentage of fat when we're working aerobically. So we use fat in greater quantities, and it becomes a really big fuel source because it provides that slow, long-term energy. The byproducts of aerobic training: carbon dioxide, so we breathe out, and water, we sweat. So it's a fairly efficient system. The problem with aerobic exercise is it's only low intensity. So if we were to then take our exercise another step up, let's say we've gone for a walk or even a jog, and we could continue that for hours on end, we pick up the intensity. Let's say I wanted you to run for about a minute as fast as you could. So for a minute, I want you to run as fast as you could. Initially, we're going to have some oxygen that's going to help us with the production of energy, but the intensity of the exercise is going to quickly become too intense for us to take in enough oxygen to continue to produce energy in the presence of oxygen. So we start to work anaerobically, and that means without oxygen. So if we were to go for that run for about a minute, we take off and we're going as hard as we can. Couple of things, after maybe 10, 20 seconds, we're going to start to feel our legs are getting real heavy. Our heart rate's going to go up. We're not getting enough oxygen. Things are hurting. Lactic acid is building up. And that's because when we work at a certain intensity or enough of an intensity to work anaerobically, it's not very efficient. It's not a very efficient system. We need that oxygen there for that energy production. And because it's not a very efficient system, it means our performance cannot continue for a very long period of time. So again, if you were to run as fast as you could for about a minute, after about a minute, your body is going to, or your performance is going to decrease dramatically. And that's even if you can make it up to a minute running as fast as you can. And the reason why performance goes down is because you're just not taking in enough oxygen. And because of that, energy is produced without oxygen or without enough oxygen, and we get a lot of byproducts, a lot of waste products building up, like lactic acid. So, we get sick in the stomach. We start to feel our legs, feel like they weigh 100 kilos each. Our performance decreases dramatically. And that's because we're pushing over to that anaerobic sort of threshold where the intensity of the exercise is too great and our body just can't keep up. So we've had aerobic first up. We've got that nice, slow, steady duration where we can take in enough oxygen for the energy production. We then have the anaerobic, sort of that first sort of stage anaerobically where we're working harder than we are aerobically, and we can push for about a minute before we really start to see our performance decrease and lactic acid build up, and we feel those effects of working without oxygen. Now, the reason why the body can't take in oxygen when we need it anaerobically, so if we pick up the intensity of the exercise, the reason why we can't match it with that oxygen, first up, from the time we start breathing with if we have a higher breathing rate, we're trying to take in more oxygen, it takes about 2 minutes for the oxygen we breathe in to pass through our lungs, enter our blood, and reach the working muscles. So there's about a 2-minute lag time between increasing the intensity of exercise and the body actually catching up, trying to give enough oxygen for the exercise to occur. So that period in between, that's where we'll start to work anaerobically. A good example might be the HIIT sessions that you're doing on a spin bike. The HIIT sessions are a great anaerobic exercise. We're pushing that intensity to the point that we can't supply enough oxygen. And as you know, if you do the HIIT, your breathing rate goes up, your heart rate goes up, your legs feel heavy, you start to feel a bit crook, and that's because we're working anaerobically. Now, if we take it one step further again, and we said we want absolutely maximal intensity performance, so like lifting weights in the gym, we need energy instantly, and we need it at a really, really high rate. Like we want to lift, let's say we want to squat 50 kilos. We want to squat 50 kilos plus our body weight. We want the energy bang like that. We can't wait 2 minutes until the oxygen kicks in. We need it instantly. And so that's called, there's a few different terms, but let's just call it for here anaerobic ATP, or anaerobic ATP is a good way to think about it. ATP is the energy that we store in the muscles, adenosine triphosphate, and we have a supply of it of about 10 seconds. So if I was to say to you, squat, a pretty decent weight, maybe about 70 to 80% of your maximum weight, you could probably do it for about 10 seconds, and then you're going to really die in the backside because you just don't have the ability to provide that amount of energy. And again, it's because we're working in the absence of oxygen. So there's no oxygen at all with this anaerobic ATP system. We need instant energy, bang, like that. And we have a small supply of it in the muscles and in the blood sugar, muscle glycogen. We do have a supply of it. It's very good for extreme high performance, but it dies very, very quickly. And that's because we don't have the oxygen there to help us produce the energy. So when you're doing a weight training set, as an example, you do your 10 reps on a squat and you can't do any more because you're absolutely stuffed. You've got no energy. You take a minute and a half for recovery. And in that time, the energy systems replenish. That usable form of energy starts to replenish very, very quickly, that ATP, and we start to build up the energy required to do another set. Now, as that continues, if we keep doing set after set after set, we are eventually going to start to run low on that instant energy that's available. The byproducts or the waste products of the weight training will build up, so we will get the lactic acid building up and things like that, and we won't be able to continue for very long after that period. So look, it's a very basic sort of explanation of the different energy systems: aerobic with oxygen, anaerobic meaning without oxygen. That first anaerobic system, it's called the anaerobic lactate system. So when the lactic acid builds up, just think about doing a 400-meter run or running for about 1 minute as fast as you can. And then the further system above that is the anaerobic ATP system, which is that instant energy. We need it straight away in the gym. We need it right now. and that has a very limited supply of energy, but it's very good for really high performance. So I just wanted to chat to you about it because, look, there's some common terms that are thrown around, and it's important to have an understanding of the different training that we're doing and the different energy systems that we're working. Weight training is going to be that anaerobic ATP system. Your HIIT sessions are going to be more that anaerobic lactate system, and your talk test cardio is going to be your aerobic system. So a bit of a basic rundown, just some terms, some terminologies to get you thinking about the training that we're doing. Remember, all the plans that we have are structured and are well thought out beforehand. So this is some of the thinking and some of the reasoning that goes into some of the programs that we have. But anyway, I hope everyone's enjoying the middle of the week. If you've got any questions, you know the drill, shoot them through. And I'll chat to you all next week.